Did you know the most powerful people never explain themselves and never need to? You've been told that if you're good, honest, and patient, life will reward you. But the truth is harsher. You play by the rules, and others use those rules to control you. You show your heart, and they sharpen their knives. Most people think being liked is the path to influence. It isn't. It's the fastest way to become predictable and powerless. Machiavelli didn't respect the man who tried to be understood. He respected the one who was impossible to read. In this video, I'm not here to inspire you. I'm here to strip away the illusions that keep you obedient. You don't need permission to be powerful. You only need the courage to stop explaining and start moving in silence. If you're ready to stop being predictable and start becoming untouchable, subscribe now. This is where your transformation begins. 1. The weakness of seeking recognition. Think about the last time you did something just to be seen. Maybe you worked late so someone would notice your effort. Maybe you posted something online hoping for validation. Maybe you shared an idea and felt frustrated when no one praised you. Almost everyone does this, and almost no one admits it. I read a post on Reddit from a man who said he spent years trying to prove he was smart enough to deserve respect. Every meeting he spoke up just to sound important. Every project he made sure everyone knew he was in charge. He said the more recognition he chased, the emptier he felt. One day, his boss told him something that changed him forever. He said, "You're working too hard to be seen and not hard enough to be useful." That hit him like a slap, because it was true. Here's the brutal truth. The moment you need recognition, you give away your leverage. People can smell it on you. They can sense when you're acting from ego instead of purpose, and they will use it against you. Pause and let that sink in. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He watched kings and generals lose everything because they wanted to be adored. They thought power meant applause. But applause is the first drug that makes you weak. Stay here, because in a minute, I'll show you a way to start breaking this addiction for good. Real power doesn't care if anyone claps. Real power cares about results. When you act only to be respected, you become predictable, and predictable people are easy to control. Imagine two leaders. One needs everyone to like him. He explains his decisions over and over. He gets offended when someone disagrees. He tries to look strong instead of just being strong. The other leader says little. He listens more than he speaks. He never defends his choices because he doesn't care if you understand them. Which one do you fear more? The second, always the second. Because he has detached himself from needing your validation, and that detachment makes him powerful. Needing recognition is the first weakness your rivals will find. So how do you start moving differently? How do you stop craving approval? First, you must be willing to be underestimated. Let people think you're less important. Let them assume you have nothing to offer. While they ignore you, you build leverage in silence. I know this feels uncomfortable, but remember this. People won't respect your silence until it starts pulling their strings. Stay with me. Soon I'll share the first step you can practice tonight to detach from the need for recognition. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But before the world fears you, you must stop fearing their opinion. Imagine a ghost in a crowded room. He moves unnoticed. He studies every corner. He collects information while everyone else tries to outshine each other. When the moment comes, He acts decisively. No one saw it coming. That's how you must start moving. Quiet, calculated, detached. Try this simple exercise tonight. Close your eyes and think of one place in your life where you crave recognition most. Maybe it's your career. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's social media. Now, ask yourself, what would I do differently if no one was watching? Write down the answer. That's the action you take next. This is how you start building power that doesn't depend on applause. When you don't need to be seen, you can't be controlled. Stay here, because in the next part, we'll explore how silence itself becomes a weapon that forces others to adjust around you. Remember, you are not here to be liked. You are here to be undeniable. You are not here to prove yourself. You are here to become the presence they cannot ignore, even when you say nothing. This is the beginning of your transformation, and you're closer than you think. 2. The power of silent domination. Have you ever walked into a room and felt someone's presence before they even spoke? Maybe it was a boss who never raised his voice, but somehow made everyone careful with their words. Maybe it was a competitor who barely said anything, but made you second-guess every move. That quiet tension is not an accident. It's design. I read a story from a woman who worked for a CEO she described as terrifying, without ever being cruel. He never yelled. He never insulted anyone. But when he looked at you, it felt like he could see exactly what you were hiding. She said, he never explained himself. He never defended his choices. He just decided, and everyone adjusted. That is the power of silent domination. Most people think control comes from volume. They think shouting, arguing, or proving yourself is how you make people respect you. But the truth is, the more you explain, the more predictable you become. And predictable people are easy to ignore. Let's pause for a moment so you can really feel that. Machiavelli believed that fear, calm, quiet fear, is the purest form of influence. Not terror that makes people panic, not anger that turns into rebellion, just enough fear to make them think twice before crossing you. Stay with me, because soon I'll show you a simple exercise to practice this kind of presence. Imagine 2 leaders. One storms into the room, demanding attention. He explains every decision. He tries to convince everyone he's right. The other walks in and says nothing. He takes his seat. He observes. He asks one quiet question that changes the entire discussion. Which one has more power? It's always the second. Because when you don't reveal your emotions, people are forced to project their own. When you don't explain your motives, they become nervous trying to guess them. That discomfort is leverage. The less you say, the more they wonder. Here's a truth most people never learn. You don't need to control what people think of you. You only need to control how they feel in your presence. That feeling should never be rage or panic. It should be a calm unease, a subtle fear that makes them measure every word. That's when they start respecting your boundaries before you even speak. Try this tonight. The next time someone challenges you or tries to provoke a reaction, do nothing. Look at them calmly. Let the silence grow uncomfortable. Most people can't handle that. They fill the space with nervous words or rushed justifications. You don't need to respond to everything. In fact, the more you stay silent, the more power you hold. This is not cruelty. This is design. Stay here because soon I'll share the next step that makes this even more effective. Machiavelli once wrote that men have less scruple in offending one who makes himself loved than one who makes himself feared. Why? Because love makes people familiar. Familiarity breeds assumption, but fear, even soft fear, keeps people cautious. Imagine someone hearing your name and feeling their chest tighten just a little. They remember that you don't react the way everyone else does. They recall how you stay calm when others lose control. That memory becomes a boundary they won't dare cross. Predictability is weakness. Controlled mystery is power. This doesn't mean you stop being human. It means you stop performing. You let your actions speak louder than your explanations. You let your silence carry more weight than any speech. If you want an example, look at the most respected strategists in history. They never wasted energy proving themselves. They focused on outcomes. They moved pieces quietly until everyone else realized they were surrounded. Stay here, because in the next part, I'll show you exactly how to use unpredictability as a weapon so no one can ever read you again. You are not here to be liked. You are here to become the presence that shifts the room without needing to raise your voice. And you're closer to that than you think. If this video is helping you see things differently, please share it with someone you care about. It could be a small gift that makes their day a little lighter. 3. Conditioning through unpredictability. Have you ever noticed how predictable people always get taken advantage of? Maybe you've worked with someone who said yes to everything. Everyone knew they could push that person a little further every time. No one respected them. No one felt challenged by them. I read a story from a woman who said her boss never raised his voice but always kept everyone guessing. She never knew if he was satisfied or disappointed. When he gave praise, it meant something because it didn't happen often. She said, "You were always a little nervous around him, and that made you do better work." That's the power of unpredictability. Most people are addicted to being understood. They want everyone to know what they think and feel. They share too much. They react too fast. And they become easy to read and easy to control. Pause for a moment and really think about this. If people can predict how you will react, they can manipulate you. They know which words will make you angry. They know which compliments will make you drop your guard. They know how to keep you predictable so you never become a threat. Stay here, because soon I'll show you a simple practice you can start using today to break this cycle. Imagine you are playing a game of chess. If you move the same way every time, your opponent will learn your pattern and destroy you. But if you change your strategy, if you pause where they expect you to rush, if you act when they think you're passive, they become hesitant. And that hesitation is your leverage. Predictability is the first step to becoming powerless. This is why Machiavelli believed your silence should make people paranoid. When they don't know what you're thinking, they have no choice but to respect your space. Try this tonight. The next time someone demands an answer, don't rush to fill the silence. Count to 5 in your head before you speak. Watch how the tension grows. Watch how their tone shifts. That space makes you powerful. Here's another example. A man shared online how he stopped replying to every text right away. He started waiting a few hours before he answered. At first, people were confused. Then, they became more respectful. They stopped assuming he was always available. This is not about playing games. It's about breaking the pattern that makes you easy to use. Your unpredictability forces others to think twice before testing you. Stay here, because in a minute I'll share how to combine this with strategic consequences to build even stronger influence. Remember, Conditioning doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small moments repeated over time. You must stay calm even when you want to react. You must stay silent even when you want to explain. Most people will never do this because they are ruled by emotion. They feel uncomfortable being misunderstood. They rush to fix that discomfort, and in doing so, they lose their advantage. Imagine someone walking into a meeting, expecting you to respond the way you always have. But this time, you look at them without expression. You nod once and say nothing. Their brain starts spinning. Did I do something wrong? Did he notice something I didn't? That uncertainty is the seed of respect. Practice giving less information than you normally would. If you always explain your decisions in detail, stop. Simply say, "That's my choice." If you always reassure others when they seem nervous, stop. Let them feel the tension. At first, this feels strange. You might worry people will think you're cold. But here's the truth. Predictable people are liked. Unpredictable people are respected. Stay here because in the next part, I'll guide you into using strategic, disproportionate consequences. The moments when your calm ends and your power becomes visible. You don't have to be cruel to condition respect. You only have to be disciplined. You don't have to threaten to become a presence others can't ignore. This is how you stop reacting and start designing every interaction. And you're closer to that than you think. 4. Strategic disproportionate consequences. Most people think being respected means always being reasonable. They want to look fair and measured every moment. But fairness is predictable, and predictable is forgettable. If you want people to respect your boundaries, you must show them clearly what happens when they cross them. I read a story from a manager who shared how he learned this lesson the hard way. He said he always gave second chances. He believed in patience and understanding. But one day, a team member lied about a deadline and cost the company thousands of dollars. Even then, he just gave a warning. Weeks later, the same employee did it again. This time, the manager didn't explain. He didn't argue. He quietly fired him. He wrote, "That moment changed everything. Everyone else on my team started showing up prepared. My silence spoke louder than any speech I could have given." When you are calm, most of the time, and merciless a small part of the time, you create something unforgettable, a memory people will carry with them. They won't know when that moment will appear again. So, they start respecting you in advance. Machiavelli wrote that men should be treated generously or destroyed, because they will repay small injuries but cannot retaliate against severe ones. When you deliver a consequence, it must be clean, cold, and final. Imagine a line on the ground. Everyone knows it's there. Most people assume you'll never enforce it. The first time someone crosses it, you don't threaten. You don't raise your voice. You simply act. You deny an opportunity. You remove your support. You end the relationship. And you do it without emotion. Here's the truth most people can't accept. If you respond the same way to everything, people learn to ignore you. If your reaction to betrayal is the same as your reaction to a small mistake, no one takes you seriously. But when you are calm most of the time and decisive in rare moments, your decisions become unforgettable. Think about the last time someone crossed a line with you. Ask yourself, did I over-explain? Did I try too hard to be liked? Then, write down one clear action you could have taken instead. Practice saying it out loud. I don't tolerate that. This is over. Or simply, I'm done. No anger, no excuses, just a decision. When someone realizes you can remove them from your life without warning, they start calculating every interaction. They measure their words, they control their behavior because they know you don't need to threaten, you just act. Imagine you are a leader in any environment, family, work, friendships. When you deliver a clean consequence once, you rarely have to do it again. People remember, they adjust. That is how respect becomes automatic. And here's another example. A woman shared how she stopped tolerating repeated disrespect. One day, a friend mocked her goals in front of others. She didn't argue, she didn't explain. She simply ended the friendship without a scene. Years later, that friend told her, "I never forgot the day you walked away without a word." You don't need to announce your standards, you show them. You are not here to be everyone's friend. You are here to build a presence they think twice about crossing, and you're closer to that than you realize. Stay here, because in the next part, we'll explore how weaponizing your absence becomes the final piece of this power. 5. Weaponizing absence. Most people think influence comes from always being present. They believe the more you show up, the more people will respect you. But showing up all the time makes you familiar, and familiarity breeds assumption. I read a story on Reddit about a man who spent years trying to earn respect by always being available. He replied to every message within minutes. He accepted every invitation. He never said no. At first, people seemed grateful, but over time they stopped valuing his time. He wrote, "The more I gave, the more they expected. The day I stopped being available, they called me selfish. That's when I understood. They never respected me. They just got used to me." Absence is the tool that breaks this cycle. Think about it. When someone disappears after being reliable, you feel it. You start to wonder where they went. You replay your last conversation. You question if you did something wrong. That tension is powerful. Most people never use absence because it feels uncomfortable. They want to be seen, to be liked, to be included. But power doesn't chase attention. Power haunts. Imagine a leader who leaves meetings early without explanation. He doesn't need to justify himself. His absence becomes a statement. People start to measure their words carefully, hoping he will stay longer next time. That's the effect you want. Here's a simple step to practice. The next time you feel the urge to fill every silence, resist it. Let conversations end without wrapping them up neatly. Let others wonder what you're thinking. Delay your replies, not out of arrogance, but out of intention. If someone expects an immediate response, give it space. That space makes people aware of your value. Think about the last time you waited for someone's answer and felt uneasy. That feeling made you pay attention. You measured your next words. You respected their time more. That is what absence does. When you walk away from disrespect without explanation, you teach people they don't have access to you. You don't need to argue. You don't need to defend yourself. You simply remove your presence, and they feel the loss. A woman on Twitter shared how she stopped engaging with a friend who constantly belittled her goals. Instead of arguing, she just disappeared. Weeks later, that friend reached out, asking what happened. She never explained. From that day on, the friend treated her with more caution. She wrote, "I didn't realize silence could be so loud." Absence creates tension. Tension creates awareness, and awareness creates respect. When you use absence wisely, you shift the dynamic. People stop assuming they can have you whenever they want. They start understanding that your time is earned, not owed. Try this tonight. Think of one area of your life where you feel taken for granted. Choose one moment to step back. Don't announce it. Don't explain it. Just create space. and let the silence work for you. At first, it may feel unnatural. You might worry people will think you're cold, but remember, predictable presence makes you common. Strategic absence makes you important. You don't have to be everywhere to be influential. In fact, the less you are seen, the more people imagine you. And imagination is where respect becomes fear. When you're not in the room, your reputation has to speak for you. And if you've been consistent with your boundaries, that reputation will do more work than any argument ever could. People will start to wonder what you're thinking. They'll replay your last words. They'll feel the weight of your absence. That is when your influence multiplies. If you want to build a presence that people respect, stop trying to be accessible all the time. Start becoming the person whose attention feels rare. And remember this, the strongest forces are invisible. Gravity doesn't shout, it simply pulls everything toward it without effort. Your absence can do the same. Stay here because in the next part, we'll explore how never explaining yourself becomes the final layer that makes your presence untouchable. You don't need to be louder. You don't need to be more visible. You need to be missed when you're gone. If this video resonates with you, or if you see something that could be clearer or more helpful, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. Let me know what spoke to you and what I could improve. Your feedback helps me make better content for you and everyone else watching. 6. The power of non-explanation. Most people believe if they can just explain themselves clearly enough, they will be respected. They think if they give the perfect reason, if they share enough context, people will finally understand them and stop questioning their choices. But that is not how power works. I read a story from a man who used to lead a team of salespeople. He said whenever he made a decision, he felt the need to explain it in detail. He wanted everyone to agree and feel comfortable, but over time he noticed something strange. The more he explained, the more people challenged him. His explanations became invitations for debate. The day he stopped explaining was the day people started respecting his word. He said, "Silence did more for my authority than any speech I ever gave." That's the lesson most never learn. When you justify yourself, you are giving your power away. You are telling people that their approval matters more than your judgment. You are signaling that you can be influenced if they push hard enough. Think about the last time someone asked you why you did something. You probably felt pressure to respond quickly. You wanted them to see you as reasonable or fair, but every explanation you offered made you smaller in their eyes. Let that sink in for a moment. Machiavelli wrote that true power is clinical, deliberate, and silent. The more you explain your intentions, the easier it becomes for others to predict you and use your words against you. If you want to become untouchable, you must learn to let people wonder. Let them talk. Let them invent their own stories about you. While they guess, you remain still. This doesn't mean you never communicate. It means you never justify, you never defend, you never act like you owe anyone a reason for being who you are. Here's a simple step to practice. The next time someone demands an explanation you don't feel like giving, try saying this instead. "That's my choice." Then stop talking. Watch what happens. Most people will feel uncomfortable. They will wait for you to keep speaking. They will push for more. But the more you hold the silence, the more they realize you are not someone who can be pressed into explaining. This is not arrogance. This is design. People fear what they don't understand. They respect what they can't define. And they grow cautious around what they can't predict. Imagine a leader who never explains why he acts. He simply decides, he moves, he lets the results speak. That's the leader whose name is mentioned in whispers. That's the leader whose presence feels larger than any argument. The moment you stop explaining, you start conditioning the nervous systems of everyone around you. They start measuring their words, they start watching your reactions carefully, because you've become an unknown variable, and the unknown always commands respect. Here's another example. A woman shared online how she stopped defending her boundaries with her family. Every time she used to say no, she felt she had to explain why. It only led to guilt and arguments. One day, she simply said, "No thank you, no more words." She wrote, "They were stunned. For the first time, they respected my answer." This is the quiet shift you must practice. When people realize they can't extract explanations from you, they start treating you differently. They understand you have standards you don't negotiate. Try this tonight. Think of one situation where you would normally feel the urge to explain yourself. Instead, decide that your answer will be short and final. No extra words, no justification, just clarity. At first, it may feel strange. You might think you sound cold or distant. But the truth is, you are simply removing the illusion that anyone else has a say in your decisions. Remember, power becomes vulnerable the moment it's visible. The more people see you pulling strings, the easier it is for them to try to cut them. The highest form of influence is done in silence. Stay here, because in the next part, we'll explore how to craft a persona so untouchable that no one dares question it. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be defensive. You just have to stop explaining. That's when you become the shadow behind the throne. 7. Crafting an untouchable persona. Most people think that power is about showing everyone who you are. They believe if they talk enough about their success, their goals, and their plans, people will respect them. But the truth is, the more you reveal, the easier you are to predict and to attack. I read a story about a founder who spent years trying to be the loudest voice in every meeting. He shared every idea, every strategy. At first, people admired his energy, but over time, they learned exactly how to use his words against him. They would repeat his plans to competitors. They would twist his ideas to their advantage. One day he realized he had trained everyone to see through him. He said, "I was so desperate to be seen as powerful that I gave away all my leverage." That is what happens when your need to be understood is bigger than your need to be effective. Imagine the opposite. A person who speaks rarely but with purpose, who never rushes to explain, who lets others fill in the blanks with their own projections. That is the person who commands attention without ever asking for it. When you build a persona that is calm, detached, and unreadable, you become something people can't define. And what they can't define, they can't easily challenge. Think about the last time you met someone who seemed totally unaffected by opinion. You probably felt a mix of curiosity and caution. You wondered what they were thinking. You paid closer attention to every small gesture. That is what you want your presence to do. You don't have to be everywhere to be influential. In fact, the less you reveal, the more people imagine. And imagination is where fear and respect grow. Try this simple step tonight. Choose one area of your life where you usually overshare. It could be your plans, your feelings, or your opinions. This week, hold those details back. Let people wonder. Let them guess. Notice how they start behaving differently around you. You don't have to build a reputation by force. You build it by becoming a mystery wrapped in results. A man who needs everyone to see his greatness is a man who will always be controlled by public opinion. A man who can walk away, who can stay silent, who can disappear without explanation. That is the man who becomes untouchable. Here's another example. A woman shared on Twitter that she used to justify every decision at work. She wanted to be seen as transparent and fair, but it only made people question her authority. The day she stopped explaining was the day her team started following her lead without debate. She wrote, "The less I said, the more they respected my judgment. The more they see, the less they fear. The less they see, the more they imagine. And what they imagine is always bigger than what you show them. If you want to create a presence that shapes entire rooms, you must learn to give just enough to appear relatable, but never enough to be vulnerable. Polite but detached, calm but unreadable." But this doesn't mean you become cold or cruel. It means you stop giving away the details people will use to limit you. Your real desires, your pain, your doubts, those belong to you and no one else. The moment someone believes they fully understand you is the moment they believe they can defeat you. But if your motives are hidden and your actions precise, they will hesitate before they ever try. When your persona is crafted carefully, you don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to defend to be respected. You exist, and others adjust. Think of gravity. It doesn't make noise, it doesn't argue, but everything around it moves because of its pull. That is the elegance of true dominance. You've now seen that power isn't something you're given. It's something you build. Deliberately, quietly, and without apology. You've learned that the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop needing to be understood, you become the presence everyone has to adjust around. Remember this: real control isn't loud. It isn't about proving who you are. It's about becoming someone others can never fully define. When people can't read you, they can't predict you. And when they can't predict you, they respect you. You will feel tempted to share more, to defend your choices, to prove your worth. That temptation is the last chain trying to pull you back into weakness. Let it break, because once you detach from the need for validation, you step into a space very few ever reach. You stop being a man who reacts. You become the architect who shapes the room without even raising your voice. Imagine waking up knowing you don't have to force respect. You don't have to chase recognition. You don't have to explain your decisions to people who will never operate at your level. Instead, you simply exist, and everyone else recalibrates. This is the transformation you've started. A shift from predictable to unreadable, from emotional to strategic, from seeking acceptance to commanding presence. If you feel this in your gut, if something in you knows you're done living on the surface, I invite you to take one quiet step forward. Like this video if it woke something up inside you. Subscribe if you're ready to keep building the persona no one can touch. And don't stop here. In the next video, we'll go deeper into the psychology of influence, so you can maintain this power long after others have faded back into the crowd. Because this isn't about appearing strong for a moment. It's about staying untouchable for a lifetime.